So these are 5 of the most common things that sellers say to real estate agents as they're going through the interview process to decide which agent they want to hire for the job of selling their home. If you are an agent who wants to list more property, taking the time to learn these 5 questions, which, by the way, they have been around since the beginning of time. Sellers have been saying the same thing. None of this is new. So if you can take the time to reflect on these questions, decide how you want to show the seller value and show them how you can help them through that challenge that they have in their mind, that objection, then you are going to be able to provide great service for that person and also win more listings because you're going to be prepared when those objections come up. Instead of being afraid or stuck and not know what to say and start rambling, you're going to have a response in your head that you're confident can show value. So I'm going to share the 5 things that come up most frequently with sellers. Then I'm also going to share the ways that we handle them on my team that I've personally used to talk sellers through these points to show value on all the properties I've listed in my career. So the most common, my home is much better than my neighbors. Even though the square footage is similar, the acreage is similar, the condition is similar, they feel their home is better. And this is a real thing. Every seller feels that their home is better than their neighbors. Part of the reason for that is because they made it their own over the years. They did it for themselves and all the things they like. And sometimes a seller, we even do this with our own homes as agents, by the way. Sometimes that seller has a hard time understanding that not everyone's going to like the exact way they did it, right? So we have 2 choices as an agent here. We can be afraid that we're going to lose their business, tell them we can get them their price, list the home, and have it not sell, of course. Or if it does sell because it sat on the market a while, it's going to sell for a lower price, right? Or we can tell them the truth. We can tell them the truth and show them why. And again, this can't be confrontational. It can't be aggressive and tell them they're wrong. You have to use the comps, use the data to show them what the similar homes are selling for. And my favorite thing to say here is, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, let's take your seller's hat off for a minute and put your buyer's hat on. If you were going to buy a property, there were 2 similar options available. Square footage was close. Neighborhood was, you like both neighborhoods. There were pros and cons about the interior, right? One was priced at $600 and one was priced at $550. Which home would you buy, right? And they're going to think, and if they're a reasonable person, any of us would take the $550 home, right? And then, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, wouldn't you rather take that extra $50,000 to do exactly what you wanted to do to the home, to make it your own, instead of, paying $50,000 extra for whatever the seller did to make it their own, right? And most sellers will agree when you break it down like that. But it's taking the time and really the risk to show them that their illusion on price is incorrect. If you can show it with data and some real scenarios based on experience, you're going to help that seller net more money. Not only will you take the listing, you'll net them more money because you'll price it right from the start. So handling that one right is critical. Number 2, most common thing a seller says, we want to think about it. This is code word for no. We're not hiring you. 95% of the time, the we want to think about it equals another agent being hired or them going in a different direction in some form or fashion. That really means that there's a question unanswered in their head about you. Maybe you haven't shared it, or maybe it's something they don't like. Either way is fine. But if we just leave it alone, chances are we may never even get to talk to them again because they'll go ghost mode. Or if we do get to talk to them, they'll just keep putting up blocks. When you're there in person and someone wants to think about it, now's your chance to dig in, see what you missed, ask more questions. Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you have me here today for a reason. I'm just curious, what are you stuck on? What do you want to think about before you make this decision, right? And they may still block you, okay? Well, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, there's usually 3 things that a seller is thinking about before they go ahead and list a property? May I share those with you? Of course, right? One is, quite honestly, are we sure we want to sell the property? Now, for you, are you sure you want to sell? And they're going to say, oh, yeah, of course, because they wouldn't have you there if not. And second is the price. Based on the market analysis I've shown you, do you think my pricing is accurate? And a lot of times this is where you're off. They just don't want to tell you. So when you bring it up like that, you can bring it to the surface, and then you could handle it just the way we handled step one, right? But if they agree on price, then say, the third thing is they want to hire an agent they feel comfortable with to sell their home. Do you think I can sell the home for you? They say no. Okay, what am I missing that makes you nervous? Dig in. Talk about their goals and their motivation. Try to find out what you're missing, because if you don't pull it out there, chances are you're never going to get the chance to. The third most common thing, will you reduce your commission? This has been going around since the beginning of time. This is nothing new. People have tried to sell their homes on their own. There's been discount agents, people that'll do it for flat fees. There used to be an agent, back in the beginning of my career that would list property for free, and he would just try to do open houses there to try to get attention. And I mean, of course, he went out of business because of the cost. But there's all types of services and price ranges out there. So in a seller's mind, if everything is equal, why wouldn't they go with the cheaper route? You or I would do the same thing, right? If you perceive the service to be equal and any agent they use is going to net the same result, then obviously they'll go the discount route. Now, anyone that's been in real estate for a while and has studied the numbers knows that half of all realtors never even sell a home, let alone the difference in track record of agents that do sell homes. So there's a big discrepancy in what one agent does versus another. And you have to be able to show that to them. You have to have some type of value proposition to show why you are worth the commission that you charge, and have some tangible evidence and testimonials from the past to be able to share that. If you're a newer agent, use your brokerage, use your team. If you're a veteran agent, have some case studies, have some specific examples where you've helped your clients net more money. On a for sale by owner situation, NAR does studies, every year where they compare the average cost of a sale of a for sale by owner versus the average sale with a realtor. It's usually 22%, somewhere in that range, difference in average sales price, right? And real estate agents don't charge 22%, right? The great agents usually charge 6%. So there's a huge, net there if the seller has the right agent, and you need to be able to communicate that if you want to get paid what you feel is fair for that service. Number 4, we have a friend in the business or a family member. And listen, if their friend or family member is a top agent, they have a great relationship, okay. But if you just let it go there, for the reasons I just mentioned before, if half of the agents don't sell a home, and we know as agents, 87% of agents don't make it in our business, there's a pretty good chance their friend or family member doesn't have the experience to sell their home for top dollar and with a smooth process. So a couple things I like to ask here is, listen, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Would it be helpful to at least get a second opinion just to make sure you're not missing anything, right? And this gives them a chance where at least you're not just letting it go. It shows them you care, and it's at least giving them a chance to see if they can compare their friend's plan just to make sure it is a rock solid plan and they have everything in order. Okay. Another thing I might say here is this a social decision for you, or is it a business decision? Right? Are you looking to do a friend a favor, or do you want to make sure you net the most money on this transaction? Again, go back to comparing a plan. If the other agent's plan is top notch, great, go with them, right? But if not, at least now they have another option that might be a better fit for them. And number 5, most common, thanks for bearing with me on this, I know this video is longer, is what makes you different? Robert, I've been sitting around, interview. This is my third agent interview. You guys all sound the same. You men and women all sound the same. What makes you different? Now, this is something you really need to sit down and think of. 1 or 2 good reasons that you feel separates you from the competition. It can't be marketing. It can't be I'm number 1 in the world, right? That term, every agent says they're great at marketing. Every agent says they're good at negotiating. Don't make that your thing, right? Make it different. Every agent says I'm number 1 in my office or this or that. Like, that turns people off. They don't care that you're number 1. They want to know that you're listening to their goals and that you have a solution and a process for their goals. And you can get them that result stress-free. So spend some time on this one. I'm not going to give you this because what makes me stand out is different from what makes you stand out, another agent on my team or another agent at a different brokerage. This is something you have to spend some time reflecting on. And please do it. Don't come up with your answer on the fly. I'm sharing these questions with you now because if you're trying to list property, all of these questions will come up and they will come up often. So you need to be very comfortable with your responses. Okay. If you want more help on this, you want to dig in a little deeper, I'm always here to talk. Make it a great week.